just joining us, Bob Menery here. Takes a snap. Oh my God! His head fell off. Well, my goodness, flags are everywhere.
All right, so if you're joining us on Rumble, hopefully subscribe to our Rumble. We started on that platform now. It's a little bit less censory than YouTube and all those other platforms that kind of censor you. So Rumble, we are proud partners of now. So got a chance to meet Chris, the CEO, down in Vegas. Really good dude. You guys ever heard of Rumble?
I have, yeah.
Yeah.
What's the CEO like? He's a nice guy?
He's Canadian. He's a good dude. Really, really cool dude.
Hockey guy?
Hockey guy.
Gotta be a hockey guy.
Gotta be a hockey guy, you know? You seem like you're good spirits in here tonight.
We had a good run tonight.
Yeah, we got a lot done.
We had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
How are you?
Here at Action Park Media.
Action Park Media. Thank you, Kevin. By the way, you do a very good job here.
Thank you.
No, truthfully, Action Park Media, Los Angeles. Scott runs the show. I don't know, Kevin. Do you do anything?
I mean, I do. I worry
Okay.
while Scott actually does the work here at TikTok Alley.
Yeah.
Bob, how do you feel about going viral in your latest TikTok here in the alleyway? What's the feedback like there?
I forgot the tag there too. That was on
No, not even the tag, but like what happened? You were out there. You saw.
Yeah, I was on
them?
your property,
Right.
and I took out my phone, and I just saw these 6 kids just kind of dancing, and I don't mean anything by it.
No, you were being. I was organic.
I was just, it's like I try and be. I guess I'm labeled like a comedian on the on my bio,
right.
So I try and be funny at times. You know?
And also, if you look and you see a group dance happening, instinctually you're gonna just.
That shit went viral.
It did.
Did you ever find the actual video of them?
No.
We gotta locate that
They didn't
somehow.
look like they were ready to upload anytime soon.
Yeah.
Their dance moves were kind of out of sync. Yeah, I uploaded that video dancing those kids, and then they basically. I want to find them though. I want to join the dance now.
I'm surprised with how many people saw it. Do you have any idea who they were?
I mean, no, I don't have any idea. Nobody's told me who they were.
What
yet.
could they have been doing?
They were doing something that was
Trying to
fucked
go
up.
viral.
And I didn't mean like I took a lot. Actually, you take a lot of shit. Normally, I didn't think I would take that much shit for it, but you
Yeah.
did get a lot of like people that were like, basically, let them fucking do what they want. You're an asshole. Because
Really?
I did say on top of it, I fucking hate Los Angeles too.
That's probably what it did. Because organically, you were outside, and that did just happen
Yeah.
in front of you, and you just pulled out your phone.
Yeah, and I don't really have any like problems really with Los Angeles. I've just had bad experience here, and I feel like every time here something bad happens. So that's why I just don't like it. That's
You got hate for that more so than like stop giving TikTokers a platform?
Is that a thing?
My viewpoint was basically making fun of people
True,
that do that,
true.
so that's why I didn't
Forgot
get
the
shit.
commentary.
I got love for actually fucking with those kids, which
Right.
I think they were like really young. They were like 9, so I do feel bad. You know?
I don't know what they were rehearsing though. I don't know that it was a TikTok. It might have been like a
I don't know.
How did I gotta ask you? I'm not gonna go.
school play. Hopefully, that wasn't.
No, that was
We
one
were
of
not
those.
that young.
That was one of those like those fucking dance things that people dance now. Kevin,
Might have been a TikTok video.
they were like trying to be a sway house, I think, or something like that.
You know Connolly loves TikTok?
It's a fun platform, I think. Right?
Is that not a cool platform for heavy influencers?
I have no idea.
Like Bob. Bob, is TikTok not?
I haven't made really any money off it. I've never ran an ad on there. I've never I have fucking 5 million people on there, and all my videos go crazy on that fucking thing.
Right, but do influencers such as yourself look down on TikTok?
You know, Kevin, I consider myself more of than an influencer because if I'm an influencer, this world's in big fucking trouble. Right. But yeah,
Fair enough.
Your
Good
question,
point.
your
That's
question
You know
was.
what I'm saying, though? Is it not the thing, TikTok?
I mean, I guess that's the thing now. But now I guess they're banning it. I guess they talk about it forever because all
It's
this
never
shit.
being banned.
I don't know. People are pretty upset about it. I guess.
Chinese spy balloon.
Right? Fuck. That's what I'm interested to talk to Reed, the storm tracer. But I got to ask you a question, Kevin, because you spent a lot of time with Scott, and Scott really played devil's advocate in that Nelk episode that we released. And was he in the corner crying in the fetal position, or what was he?
Well, I think Scott felt the potential heat of the social media world, right? If that many people are looking at anything you do, it's impossible for it to be all positive comments. But when I was looking at it, I was like, Scott, I thought Scotty fared pretty well with regards to comments, but I think Scotty was stung.
I think there was a couple times you just didn't get the point that
No,
I was
I think-
making. It was very clear as day. I don't want to talk about it more, but yes, go ahead.
I think I interrupted. That's a fair comment. But what I think people don't know is that you and I have worked together. I'm your longest tenured employee. So I've been with you through all of your contracts.
All right, we're going to have to edit this soon?
No. Look, to me, I think it felt like, look, Bob was ready to answer hard questions.
Yeah.
You knew you had to deliver hard questions.
Right.
To me, when it was in context, it made total sense. I guess out of context, if you were
Well,
just...
no one knew who the fuck I was.
That's not true. That's not true.
Dude, oh, no, of course.
Scooty Magooty?
90% of the people who watch had no idea who I am.
Or they didn't put two and two together.
Or they didn't put two and two
They
together.
didn't put two and two together.
Right.
Yeah, it's because it's been a while since the Zap podcast. When are we launching
has.
that back up again? You got to take control of that. That's something that you and Connolly have to fucking build up.
Well,
Zippies?
Are you gonna
Zippy podcast?
Will you commit to call in every now and then? Be on a few episodes?
I don't have a fucking job. I mean, I'm call in. I'm all in.
And do I need to get like a written contract for this, or are we just going 50-50 handshake? We got you on camera and on audio.
We want
right
to talk
now.
about the details on
You know,
camera.
let's get to that later. You know what I mean? Don't think I won't come back for you later at the end. You know.
I would like to exercise my option to free negotiations down the road.
No, but
I
I would
just
love to
wanted
bring it back.
I
Let's bring
wanted
it
to
back.
just revamp it up again. Zap podcast.
Yeah.
We had a good run. It was me, you, and Aaron Steinberg.
Yeah.
The Z-Rat.
By the way, I always said that was my favorite podcast.
Favorite Bob podcast? There's been a lot.
Bob's had a bunch of podcasts,
Yeah.
but I always thought it was
Maybe a
funny.
world record.
Scotty and Steinberg were like trying to, and maybe it was for me because I'm in the
knew.
podcast world. I know that you guys are trying to track Bob down.
Wrangle
Bob,
him around.
We're set up.
Yeah.
We need you for 8 minutes
Yeah.
with Johnny Manziel.
Dude, I remember.
I used to love watching you guys chase Bob around the country to try to get him for 8 minutes in a room.
That's not the case either, by the way.
Back then it was.
It was where in the world is Carmen Sandiego type of shit, bro.
right.
I just get butchered on this shit.
You want to know what my favorite one was?
What's that?
Adam Devine. Remember Adam Devine?
Oh my god.
You were boomered up on that one.
I was pretty lit up for that Zoom call. It was.
Yeah, Zoom.
My favorite was when we had the podcast in Arizona and we moved there, and I think we stayed for like 3 weeks.
That was my favorite run.
Yeah.
I
3
loved it.
weeks.
That's when I was at my pinnacle viewing.
Bob,
point.
we were there for 3 months. We were there for
Yes, I meant 3 months.
3 months, yeah.
3 months.
We were there for 3 fucking months, and I remember when I was just like, oh my god, what am I doing? We're in a circle with IVs being done. And I think that we had to get a podcast done. And at one point, the IV just started. And I was like, I got to do this fucking podcast. I was like all fucked up. I ripped the fucking IV out of my arm, splashing blood everywhere. And then I had to clear the house and be like, guys, I got to reel this in a little bit.
Bro, you had IVs in your arm. Your teeth were crumbling out of your head.
You guys were so fucked up over the
Oh,
pandemic.
my God. It was crazy.
That's
Listen,
our camp.
Yeah, but I think everybody was there. You guys were just an accelerated version of
And it was hard because we didn't know the rules. You didn't know the rules of like, what you could do with COVID and all that stuff. You didn't know what the fuck to do. So you didn't know where. I mean, that's no excuse for finding Carmen Sandiego, but at the same time, it was a little bit. You had to figure it out.
At some point, you're gonna look back on that whole time and go like, "What the fuck was going on, man?"
Dude, I mean, we made Wine Out of Water was that podcast during COVID
Man. I mean, you
lockdown
worked your
and
ass off for
everything.
that thing too.
Yeah,
That's
we
why.
we all worked hard.
And also, everybody was locked up in their house, so any
what I mean.
kind of content that you could get.
Yeah.
If you would have told me that I would have been that excited to listen to an episode of Zapped, I
Yeah.
would have told you that.
And
you
by
were
the way,
crazy.
that was Steinberg's springboard into his
To his full send career.
absolutely.
Good for him.
Yeah.
We did. Remember that game show we did at the house too, real quick?
Yeah.
I
COVID
remember
night.
that too, bro. It was awesome.
I need that fucking.
I was a fan.
I need that
was.
money back, man. Fuck. I gave away a lot of fucking money during COVID.
You guys were just getting guests on there, and you guys were all fucking out of your minds.
Oh, we were all fucked up. We had.
So what year did you graduate high school?
I had massive people on there. We had massive
big
people on
guests, yeah.
Yep.
there. And now it's harder to get guests, obviously, because the Google searches. But
I think the guest that you have on this upcoming episode for me, Bob, and again, obviously you don't listen to me.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you.
I listen now a little bit.
This kind of guest is more interesting to me than nothing wrong with your other guests. Obviously, you've interviewed huge people, but to me, a storm chaser, I don't know. I could listen about this other stuff anywhere.
I
want to hear about the storm chaser.
I'm in the same exact boat. I mean, I've talked to Reed forever and just been a fan of his, and he was known.
And you've not met him yet.
I've never
You're going to
met-
meet him soon. In a couple minutes. He's rolling up here.
He's
You're
coming
gonna
on
say,
in.
hey, nice to meet you in person, all that.
Yeah, I mean, he's having trouble getting a rental car.
Why is that?
He's having trouble getting a rental car because nobody will rent a car.
Is
to him.
that true? Does he have strikes against him?
Of course, he takes these rental cars. He goes and chases tornadoes. They get blown up by hail. He pulls back in the fucking parking
Like,
lot.
what do you
with
want me to do? I got the insurance. I paid the extra $6.
Finally,
I got
Hertz
the-
is like, "Fuck this guy. Nope, can't happen anymore." So
Dude, I mean,
Flagged him.
You've been talking about Reed Timmer since the Zap podcast days. I remember you wanted to go chase tornadoes in the middle of COVID.
we did once. You weren't with us, right?
I wasn't there.
It was me. This is a bad memory. I don't really remember too well, but I remember I found a random girl at 3 a.m. in the lobby.
Nice.
It was like, we're going to chase a tornado. You want to come? And I texted my guy who was driving that time in Nashville because there was a huge storm moving in like Indiana. It was 5 hours away. I was all zinged out of my mind, and I'm like, let's go fucking get this thing. He's like, all right, well, what should we drive? I'm like, let's get the car. Bring the Escalade. So we bring that. Little do I know now, looking at like the hail fucking damage it could have caused to that car, I would have been fucked.
Tornado chasing.
Tornado chasing, but obviously I'm like navigating. I'm like, take a right here, keep going. A couple miles. I'm like looking at this map that's like fucking from last year.
Well, especially since you don't know where the tornado's going to land. So you're like Gary Sinise and Forrest Gump.
Right.
I see shrimp. They're that way.
Yeah,
You're
you know where,
pointing random directions.
you know where we ended up?
Mississippi.
We ended up at a Dave & Buster's in Indiana, I think. That's where it was. I think it was that state. We ended up in Indiana in the Dave & Buster's.
All good roads lead to David.
And it was like a bright sunny sky. Like there was no tornado
Not
even
a fucking
near the
tornado
fucking thing.
anywhere even close to the vicinity.
And I was like, unsuccessful mission, guys. Let's pack it back up and go.
After you talk to Reed, what are the chances you actually go chase a tornado?
I'm very confident I'm going to go chase a tornado. I'm
Yeah?
excited about it. I really am excited about it.
Bob,
What?
come on, bro.
Dude.
if he says like he's probably got some tracker that we don't have, right? Obviously,
Well, he's like a meteorologist. So
a little more dialed in than we are.
he's just a little
More
more knowledgeable about tornadoes.
So Bob, if he says to you like, "Hey, Bob, I don't know what you're feeling, but there's the strong whatever coming in off the
Gulf
force, right? Texas.
Yeah.
Would you jump on a plane and go or drive there?
Kevin, you want to read you the last text from Reed Timmer?
Sure.
Reed texted me and said that there is actually
An F4
massive.
swirling out of the Gulf of Mexico.
I don't want to use the wrong terminology here, but a massive fucking banger moving in to fucking Mississippi.
Mississippi.
Yeah, and we have basically I'm on standby. So if he gives me the good to go, we're monitoring the storm right now, both of us, and if it's strong enough, we're gonna go in.
Bro, if he gives you green light, you better fucking be there.
Wouldn't miss it for the world, Scott.
All right.
Stupid question. I'm sure we'll find this out in the interview, but there's no way you could know. I mean, it's like fishing. You could be in the right spot.
Well, I
but
think
it
that's
doesn't
what-
necessarily mean you're going to get any bites.
That's what makes tornadoes so dangerous, really, is like they form so fast. You don't
and
really
you don't know where they're going to touch
Yeah,
down.
you know there's a big storm, but you don't know if it's going to form into a tornado.
People die all the time in this stuff too. People die all the time storm chasing.
Can you imagine if that's how you go out?
He has hundreds and hundreds, close to thousands of tornadoes he's chased. I mean, his track record's good, but I guarantee when I'm fucking there, something's
Right.
gonna fucking.
Can you imagine Bob spinning around in the tornado?
I can't.
Bob in a rental car from Avis.
You know, he brings his dog every tornado he chases too.
What kind of dogs you have?
A little fucking rat dog. I
Is
mean,
he coming
no
to the
offense.
office?
What
Is he
it-
coming to the office?
Toto from
I don't know.
fucking...
The Wizard of Oz.
I don't know.
Yeah, Wizard of Oz.
But if that dog walks in here, it's
Bob
gonna
and Toto flying around in the tornado.
yeah, dude, I'm fucking. I kind of like, I try not to think about it. It's something where I don't want to think about it too much. I just want to put myself in the situation and then go chase it. So I'm not even I don't want to say chase it. I'm gonna be watching. I'm going tornado watching.
Escorting.
I'm
You're
escorting.
escorting a tornado.
Escorting tornadoes.
I'm just going.
You're a tornado in your own right.
I am a tornado in my own right.
By the way, that tornado is going to touch down and look at Bob and go,
Right.
fuck that,
Yeah, I'm
bro.
outta here.
I'm fucking going to head over to Arkansas.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably what's going to happen. But, we're going to give it our best shot. Gentlemen, so just want to say thank you, Kevin. Action Park Media
You're
really
welcome.
do. You always let me come in here pro bono, which I don't know why you do, but you're a good man.
I don't know either.
What's that?
Also, to drink out of the bottle. Can we talk about it? We'll talk about it next episode.
Next episode. Next
You can
episode.
bring it.
Welcome to the future of sports betting with Atlas World Sports. Atlas World Sports is your super sports book on your phone. Find the latest lines in real time to give yourself every advantage to beat the house. Better action coming soon. Atlas World Sports will deliver a winning experience from rookie bettors all the way to Hall of Fame bettors with our AI-based Game Winners predictive model for subscribers. Find Atlas World Sports in iOS and Android app stores or via atlasworldsports.com. Atlas World Sports, may the odds forever be in your favor.
All right, so I got to say this. This is pretty impressive stuff here. I've interviewed some very cool people in my life. And, Scott, would you say how excited, scale of 1 to 10 am I on this thing?
I'd give you like an 11. This has been multiple years in the making.
Reed Timmer, welcome in.
Thanks for having me.
Reed, I want to do this. I want to know this. For people that, besides just being an insane maniac, crazy person that runs around and chases Mother Nature, how would you best describe what you do for a living?
Well, I chase storms. I'm a pure dedicated storm chaser, and not just tornadoes, but big time hail. Hail like baseball, softball, and larger. I chase hurricanes, blizzards, lake effect snowstorms, but I chase everything, but mainly tornadoes are what I specialize in. And I've seen over 600 tornadoes. I've chased about 55 or 60 tropical cyclones, including a Category 5 hurricane. Just lost my car recently in Hurricane Ian to that 15-foot storm surge, swept it away. Wow. But pretty much all I do is storm chase, and I'm a meteorologist as well, an extreme meteorologist.
Yeah, we can tell. So you've gained some notoriety lately outside, because I know you from all the internet stuff that you do on your own. You do all your own content. But did you have a deal with CNN or somebody that made you so famous on the mainstream stuff when that hurricane happened in Florida?
I didn't have a deal. I just I show up at those hurricanes, and then the media calls me and they want reports from inside of the storm. But I do work for AccuWeather too, so I do day rates for AccuWeather, and I used to storm chase too for Discovery Channel. We did the Storm Chaser series back then, and that's kind of where we really ramped up with the Dominators and doing the research and the armored vehicles. But I first started storm chasing when I was 16. As soon as I got my driver's license, I went out and started chasing blizzards, snowstorms. I grew up as a nerd. I didn't go through puberty till I was about 25. So
Same.
I was in Science Olympiad, collected insects, tree identification, but storms were always my obsession and my passion. I always wanted to be a storm chaser, and moved down to the University of Oklahoma in 1998. And I saw my first tornado October 4 of 98, and my first F5 just after that, May 3rd, 1999.
And before we go full diving here into tornadoes, F5, by the way, is, I believe, and I'm going to let you do the work here, F5 is the largest possible a tornado could be, size-wise, speed, all that?
Well, in terms of size, the largest tornado ever was 2.5 miles wide. So that was the El Reno, Oklahoma tornado. But the strongest that they can get is an F5, and now it's an EF5. So the enhanced Fujita scale is what it is now, and that's winds of greater than 200 miles an hour. But it's a damage-based scale. So basically, if a tornado wipes a home off of its foundation or wipes off a structure, and that home is sufficiently built, then that's the EF5. That's the strongest tornado that you can get. But when I first started storm chasing, it was the F scale, just the Fujita scale. Okay. And so the first one I saw was an F5 back then, and we were all packed into a geo tracker, 5 of us freshmen, and you couldn't have a vehicle back at the University of Oklahoma as a freshman unless you applied for a special permit. But my buddy had a soft top geo tracker out there, and so all of us packed into that. And next thing we know, we're chasing an F5, and we're right in the path of it. We abandon the vehicle, run underneath an overpass, and this F5 is coming right at us. And
yeah,
that's kind of how it all got started, really, with the extreme
And you're
up
telling
close.
me, because I keep saying I wanted to obviously chase one with you. That's my goal. And I think that we hopefully are close to doing that. I know that you have some information potentially on some movement going on in Mississippi or Tornado Alley. Your conversations with me, you must laugh at, because I'm always checking in with you, and I'm like, where's shit going at? I don't really ever follow up. Because
Yeah, the last couple of years, we've been trying to meet up and get a storm chase, and I know that you've been very willing just to meet up on a moment's notice, but the last 3 years have kind of been quiet for tornadoes. We had a couple big ones in Dixie Alley, but it looks like this Wednesday, Mississippi could happen, maybe Western Tennessee. So if it does take off, we got to head out there, and I got to get you close to a tornado and feel the excitement, but also see the beauty of the tornado and kind of the heat of the chase too. And I'd also love to get you in the Dominator 3.
that's the thing I want to talk to you about too as well, Reed. The Dominator 3 is something that I kind of heard about for a minute, but also you also scared me at one point, because I remember asking you, I want to chase a tornado with you, and I said, well, what do you use? You said, well, it's usually just me. I blow out the windows. I take the shitty car around that's been dented by hail, and it's just me and my fucking dog.
Yeah, Gizmo. Gizmo's the storm chasing dog. She's a little Yorkshire Terrier, and she's seen over 200 tornadoes. That little
You bring
dog.
your dog with you to every fucking tornado chase.
Yeah, every tornado chase until about the last year. She's kind of started to slow down a little bit. She's 13 years old, but
She's cheering for you at home.
she is, yeah. And she's seen more tornadoes than any dog in history on the planet. So, and she's been in a Category 5 hurricane too. She rode out Hurricane Michael with me. And I had the sunroof open in that car because the winds were so strong. They were just whipping up and over the vehicle, and no rain was coming into the vehicle.
So when does the dog ever get like, is it well trained? Does it get like, yep, yep? Because the little fucking thing is ever like, yep, yep, and like jump out the window at all ever? Or like do you have to like hold it back or anything?
She has jumped out of the car one time inside of a tornado, but she's used to it. She's used to being up close to tornadoes. She's
Well, what do
been
you do? Wait,
inside.
rewind. What do you do when the fucking dog jumps out of the fucking thing, out of a tornado?
I jump out and I grab her immediately. But we've been inside of a tornado together, and I actually held her in my arm. And we were separated from the armored vehicle, separated from the Dominator 3, and the tornado was coming from the south, and it was one of those dust busters, like a really dusty tornado. The funnel was aloft, and I had Gizmo just right under my arm. She had a little pink cast.
I'm going to be the new fucking Gizmo.
She had a
Reed's
peg
going to have
leg.
me this fucking hand like this. Should I be nervous?
No, I wouldn't be nervous, but I mean, there is a chance that things can go south pretty fast. The hail can get larger than softballs. Those can come whipping through the air when you're next to a tornado, and they make a hissing sound when they're going through the air because a lot of times they have spikes on
Like,
them too. And yeah, they make they're coming in really fast, like greater than terminal velocity, coming in horizontally.
So what happens if one fucking hits you in the head?
You would die if it hit you in the head. But you can see them coming. A lot of times you look up and you can see these giant white balls coming from the sky, and they get flung out of the mesocyclone. So the big, giant UFO mesocyclone is spinning above you, and it's chucking out baseball, softball-sized hailstones. They're hitting the ground, making huge craters, and you can see the tornado start to come down. And that area right next to the tornado is called the Bear's Cage, where you get that giant hail, and you're right in the path of the tornado. Mm-hmm. And we're trying to get inside of the tornado with our armored vehicles. So with the Dominators 1, 2, and 3, we're trying to get in the path of the tornado, use the hydraulics and drop it flush to the ground, and we have spikes that'll go into the ground, and then we just ride it out.
And what does it feel like when you're inside of a tornado and you're in the Dominator fucking 3000, whatever it's called, and you're in the middle of that thing and it's sucking you away, or you're...
Well, you feel the pressure fall. Your ears are popping in there. The winds are crazy, and when the vehicle drops flush to the ground and then the spikes go into the ground, it starts vibrating, bouncing up and down, and you get winds that'll gust over 150 miles an hour. The strongest wind we ever measured inside of a tornado is 155.2 miles an hour, and that was up in eastern Wyoming. And it feels crazy. It feels like the vehicle's going to get lifted off the ground. And one time we were inside of a tornado, and the radar engineer that was in there with us in the Dominator, he started to have a stream of blood coming out of his ear. And this was before the windows even blew out, and we were inside of the tornado. And our camera guy with Discovery Channel, Storm Chasers at the time, was like, "Mick, your ear's bleeding." And it was from the pressure fall inside of the tornado. It ruptured his eardrums. And he had clogged allergies, clogged sinuses and everything, and it blew out his eardrums inside of the tornado.
Shit. So you got to have a lot of times, I mean, you probably had several close calls. What would you say was the closest call when you had to dip into that little ravine?
The closest call I've ever had was
And there's had to be multiple, so I want to go through a couple of them.
Oh, yeah, there's been a lot of close calls, but
Okay.
But I'm an optimist, too, so I always assume I'm going to survive it. So what may look like a close call in hindsight, in the moment, I didn't really see it as a close call. I was always confident in the armored vehicle that it would survive. But the closest call I probably had was back in 2017 in Canton, Texas. And I had just gone through a divorce. I was married for only about 6 months or so.
So you're stepping the pedal a little harder into that fucking F5 tornado that you just went through a divorce, yeah?
Yeah, I was pushing it harder, and the tornado got large. It was an EF4 that was coming right at me.
You just saw your
massive
ex-wife's
wedge.
face in the tornado and just like, I got to go into that? Yeah.
I was definitely pushing it harder. I wanted to get the money shot. You know, I was working for AccuWeather at the time, and I wasn't with the armored vehicle. I was in a regular a Yukon, but it had Line-X on the outside, so it did have the armor to it. But it had traction control too, so the tornado was coming at me, and I was waiting till the last possible second. But this giant dark wedge. A wedge is a tornado that's wider than it is tall, and this one was a half-mile wide. I was in Canton, Texas, coming right at me, and I thought to myself, I should probably turn the vehicle around and position it so I could exit, but it was coming so fast that I decided not to do that. I just wanted to wait. You know, it was this amazing tornado. I saw it start to loft homes that were getting lofted in the air, and then at the last second, when it was probably about 200 yards away, and the tornado was above me, so debris is going above me at this time, I get in the vehicle, try to drive through the ditch because I didn't have time to do a three-point turn, and my traction control kicked in right when I was in the ditch, and I fell down, and I'm looking up, And I thought to myself, I basically had, time to try one time to get out of the ditch. And I told myself if that didn't work, I was going to run and try to find a drainage ditch, like the movie Twister or something like that. But I tapped the gas pedal and then I popped right out on the road. And I was in the tornado at this time. So like the northern edge of the tornado moved over me. And thankfully my road was off to the southeast and it was parallel to the wind. But the winds were ramping up. Telephone poles were getting thrown out of the sky, explosions on the power lines. And I thought, I still wasn't out of the woods at this time. I was using all 4 lanes of the highway because the wind was kind of shifting around. And I just got out of the core flow of the tornado, or the corner flow, you can call it too, where the inflow comes in and then goes straight up at a 90-degree angle. That's basically where you'd probably pass away, or I would have if the tornado impacted me at that time. But I looked back behind me. I saw the core flow, the edge of it, big power explosion, and then I cleared the tornado. But that was probably the closest that I came, just because I almost got stuck in the ditch there, and it was right after the divorce. I was trying to push it a little bit harder, but the video is pretty crazy. It was coming right at me, and
We have access to that. We saw that. Did you send that one over yet, or do we not have that?
you have that one too.
Okay.
It's not one of the ones that I sent, but I'll send it right after.
Yeah,
the
let me know all this
podcast.
shit, because I just sit there on my own and look at it. Was Gizmo in the car with you at that time?
Yeah, Gizmo was in the car. She
Was he just?
survived
Is
it
it barking
too.
the whole time?
It's a she, Gizmo,
She,
even though it sounds like a masculine name,
Yeah,
like Gizmo.
Could go either way.
Yeah, she.
But
But yeah, she went through that, and she wasn't barking too much, but she barks at the hail. So in the Pecos Valley one time when I blew all my windows out, blew out the sunroof, she was really disappointed in that. I mean, she was barking really loud, kind of let me have it after that.
Are there more? Go ahead.
She doesn't like the hail, so anytime we'd hear thunder or lightning,
Well, it's
after
bigger than fucking her. How could she like it?
Yeah,
Right?
She's not.
Are there times that there are chases that are more aggressive than less aggressive than more aggressive?
Well, I definitely chase with the same aggression. I try to get really close to the tornado, if not inside, if I'm in the armored vehicle. If I'm in a regular vehicle, then I'm trying to get really close to it. And a lot of times we're deploying sensors too.
I saw that. You had a rocket launcher and shit.
Yeah, we have a rocket launcher on top of the Dominator 3, and we have a joystick on the inside, and we just aim the rocket at the inflow notch of the tornado, shoot the rocket into the inflow notch, and then a parachute pops out and carries the sensor up through the tornado.
What does that do for you? That gives you research on fucking shit?
Yeah, it gives us data, real-time wind speed, and so the probe's moving along with the wind speed and has high-resolution GPS data, records pressure, and so it was the first time that a sensor got into the tornado and recorded it all the way up. But we've only launched one rocket into a tornado just because it's kind of hard to pull off. But the one that we got in there went all the way up to 30,000 feet, and we thought we lost the sensor, but we ended up finding it the next day. So
The good news about you and what you do too, which is cool, because you lay you put your life on the line too when you do all this, because you're also offering live, real information to people that may be in harm's way. Correct?
that's right. Yeah, storm chasers are all relaying real-time information as the tornado's happening. And a lot of times you can't see the tornado with radar, so you depend on the storm chasers that are out in the field, seeing the tornado happen in real time. And when it happens, you call the weather service, you tweet it, you're streaming live video. And the amazing thing these days is there are so many storm chasers out there that it's almost impossible for a tornado to go unreported or unstreamed.
Is it usually in a big tornado? Say something like Moore, Oklahoma, right? Moore was a huge one.
2 of them. There's a lot of them in.
There's a lot of them in that area, right? So
1999, 2013, 2 F5s.
yeah, the 13 one.
That's
for
where
instance.
I lived, for a long time too.
Really?
Norman Moore, right near the border.
Why do people live there if there's fucking tornadoes coming through every fucking 15 minutes? Are they not as like, if you buy a house in the middle of Tornado Alley, are you due to get hit fucking every year? Are you due to get hit?
No, because the tornadoes kind of take narrow paths as they go. So chances are, even if you live in Tornado Alley, you're probably not going to get hit. And you have to get really unlucky to get hit by a tornado.
Real estate must be beautiful down there.
Oklahoma's a great place. It's a beautiful place.
Seems it.
There's bodies of water out there. In springtime, tornado season, there's no better place to be than Oklahoma, at least as a meteorologist and a storm chaser, of course. But yeah, Oklahoma's beautiful. I mean, the winters are nice out there. The southeast Oklahoma has mountains and crazy weather though in Oklahoma.
How many guys? So is it a competitive thing with storm chasers? So when you see other storm chasers out there, is it like a competition? Who can get closest? Who can get? Is it like kind of like a Ricky Bobby fucking NASCAR thing where you're trying to all compete against each other? Or
Yeah, definitely it does get competitive out there for storm chasing, and it's kind of unspoken a little bit, but the video side of things is where it gets competitive because that's the only way that you can really make a living is by your video and by social media, and you have to get the viral videos too and get up close, and so that gets a little bit competitive with the storm chasing, but also the research gets competitive. So there's research teams out there with Doppler radars that are flying drones, and then there's us with our beat-up car with a rocket launcher on the top, shooting rockets into tornadoes, and there's definitely kind of an unspoken competition that exists there too.
But how many guys go out? I mean, you must have lost people on the way that you knew as storm chasers, right? I mean, the guys that you've gone chasing with, you've seen that you've been by your side so many times, going out and chasing these things, and never came back because of the fucking tornado, correct?
Yeah. Sadly, a lot of people that were on the show, storm chasers, aren't alive today. And including my best friend and storm chasing partner, Joel Taylor, also passed away. And
Sorry to hear that.
Tim Samaras, Twistex team, they passed away in the El Reno tornado. But it can be dangerous, but it's still not dangerous overall because there are so many storm chasers out there, and you're in control of the chasing. You could see which way the tornado's going, and you're definitely in total control of the chase. But just driving in those extreme conditions, I mean, I've driven through softball-sized hail, through like 3 feet of floodwaters, and inside of a tornado. I've driven through a Category 5 hurricane eye wall. But even with those conditions, the more dangerous part are the other drivers out there and the hydroplaning and all that happens out there. So it can be a little bit dangerous, and people have lost their lives, including from the Storm Chaser show. But still, overall, it's a safe activity that isn't as dangerous as you might think.
Says. It depends how probably hard you want to go at it, too. Because when I go at it with you, I'd ask you to scale back a little.
Well, we would still, we could get right up in there because
we should still scale back a little bit, you know?
I'm pretty familiar. You know, I'm used to getting up close, and we definitely survive. I mean, but
yeah.
But
I don't want to be fucking jumping in ditches with Gizmo and fucking all that shit. I can't. I'll have a fucking panic attack. Can we do it a little? Can I come with you and can we do it a little distant? I know we'll look like pussy storm chasers while the other guys zoom by in their fucking cars and their Dominator 3000s, but can we do it a little like conservative?
Well, we'll be in the Dominator 3000 too, or Dominator 3, or even if we're in a regular sedan or a rental car. I mean, a lot of times I chase in rental cars, even though I'm on the do not rent list at Hertz.
Yeah, what is that about too? Let's go to that real quick. Do not rent list.
Yeah, I do damage some rental cars occasionally when I'm storm chasing from hail. And one time I blew all the windows out.
Scotty, they're like, it's fucking Timmer. Yeah. They're like, Timmer's here again trying to get a rental, huh? Should we give it to him?
I don't know if I should even talk about this, but I have a complicated relationship with rental cars.
Well, I'd see why.
But there was one in eastern Wyoming I was chasing in a Nissan Sentra rental car, and I ended up getting a flat tire. And I had two options. I could see the tornado touching down like 8 miles away. And I had two options. I either fix the flat and miss the tornado, or I try to drive on the rim for like 8 or 10 miles.
I can only imagine what option you chose.
Yeah, I chose drive on the rim, of course, and drove on the rim the 10 miles, and then I get inside of this sheath of hail that encapsulates the tornado. Baseballs, softballs blow out all the windows, and the tornado starts coming at me. And I'm driving on the rim in the car, windows blown out. Tornadoes coming at me. I see a cow fly through the air actually in that tornado, so I'll send you that video as well. Wow. But you could see all four legs just spiraling around as it was going through the tornado.
And it's still alive. It's like or like flying through the air.
I would think that maybe the G's probably hurt the cow. It might have passed out or something in the air. I would think the G force it's going through hopefully before it hits the ground. But then after that, I roll into town, totally damaged, and the tornado just missed me by about 50 yards or so, but the car is still destroyed at this point from all the hail, from the flat.
Imagine him wheeling back that thing into Hertz.
Oh, I'm not. We're just getting started with this rental car. So then there's a guy that came out of his crumbled home, and he had 2 Siberian Huskies with him, and I let him take shelter in my car. The 2 Huskies get in the back, and they're just shredding the inside of the car. Like the whole inside of the car is destroyed. I mean, yeah, they're panicking a little bit. He is. It's all muddy on the inside.
Reed's like, I love this shit, man.
I put the donut tire on, but he rode it out in his stairwell. So he survived the tornado there in his stairwell in Federal, Wyoming. But the next day, I hit another hailstorm near Sundance, Wyoming with the donut tire on. Blew out all the rest of the windows, including the back window.
Blowing out all the windows means what? A hammer?
Yeah, big hail comes in like baseball, softball size hail. A lot of times it comes in horizontally. Sometimes it hits the windshield too, and there's glass shards flying through the car.
So you're just taking, it's like a war zone.
It's like, yeah, big hail, giant hail, like hitting the car, making huge noises. You hear the glass fly, glass shards hitting you in the face. And
you ever been bloodied up pretty good from one of those things?
Yeah, I've been bloodied up from a couple of hailstorms, but a tornado I've been bloodied up by too when we had a window blowout inside of a tornado with the Dominator 1. But that was when we were shooting storm chasers, and we have these Lexan windows, so I rolled up the regular window, and that window blew out. But when I returned that rental car in Denver, I drove up there, and everybody surrounded it in like this half moon, and they were all just clapping.
Yeah, that's got to be a really good feeling there.
So the employees, they didn't mind about that one. So
yeah,
but I did get the full loss damage waiver and everything in that case, and the 1999. But those have gone up since then. And
so when you go in there, you know you're gonna fuck this car up. Like you have to get all the full insurance.
You do, but you don't know that you're gonna do that. I'm not trying to botch up the car. So like my goal, I'm not purposely doing that, but sometimes you have to go through that hail to accomplish the goal of getting the tornado. Because you have to punch through the hail core, the baseballs, softballs, and once you get through that, then you can get visual of the tornado on the south side of the storm. But the rental car, the Hertz issue was when I was chasing flash floods out in Arizona.
What's that like? Is tornado chasing out of all the things you do? You do hurricanes, fucking earthquakes, fucking moon blasters, whatever the fuck you do. Is tornadoes the most scary fucking thing that you can encounter out there?
Well, I've never been scared once chasing a tornado.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
Well, you know what you're doing, and you're so happy to see the tornado, and you don't like to see the dark side, the damage that they leave behind, but it's the most beautiful thing that you've ever seen with your own eyes when you're that close.
That's why I want to go.
The sun illuminates them sometimes, bright white.
Oh, I can feel it.
You can see the whole thing spinning above you, and
even
like the little button tornadoes, you kind of have a little cinnamon bun, a nipple above. And
yeah.
Doesn't fully condense, but you get the ground circulation.
That's
Crazy
fucking
tornadoes.
amazing. That's got to be the most beautiful thing. At the same time, you're screaming as hail balls are flying through the windows and shit.
It's extreme and beautiful at the same time, and you're helping people too by relaying the
of course. And I'm assuming too,
science.
you had to have had, like you just said with the Husky story, you had to have been in a place where a fucking town has been decimated, right?
Oh, yeah. And whenever you encounter damage, you end the chase and go house to house and help out in the recovery effort until emergency personnel come in. And we've been in some really bad damage areas, of course, and witness firsthand the dark side that tornadoes leave behind and people emerging from their homes. And it's honestly incredible that the number of people survive those tornado damage paths. But because just the devastation that you see, you'd think that almost
everybody's swiped out.
But for some reason, when a tornado hits, I guess people probably kind of go limp, and will land, and a lot of people survive. And a lot of people do the right thing, too, get in the bathtub, get in an interior room or closet. But there's a lot of people that are just sitting ducks out there in mobile homes, across Dixie Alley, across the Mid-South, where we might be on Wednesday coming up, where those fast-moving tornadoes,
awesome.
A lot of times
Forgot about that. Sorry, go ahead. Forgot I committed to that one. Yeah.
Yeah. And it needs to ramp up. If it's a marginal risk, I don't want to waste your...
Oh, you won't be wasting my time. I actually, even if there's a fucking splash of rain, I'll be happy. I just want to go there for the chase. You have to understand me, Reed. I'm not expecting, and also somewhat don't want to now, see this fucking F5 banger anymore. I don't know if it's too... Scott, would you ever... What's your thing?
I mean, my question for Reed was going to be, when you build a house in Tornado Alley,
I'm going to grab one thing. Can you ask Reed something?
Yeah.
This is too
Reed, will you just toss your headphones on?
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Thank you, Scott.
Sorry.
My question was going to be, when you build a house in Tornado Alley, structurally, is there anything you can do to tornado-proof your home?
Well, there's not much that you can do to tornado-proof the home. There have been homes that have been built in the past that have been able to survive survive tornadoes. There have been dome homes out there as well. But most of the homes that are built in Tornado Alley and Dixie Alley aren't actually built very well. A lot of times they're mobile homes. My house in Oklahoma, I know that if it got hit by an EF2 or EF3 tornado, it'd probably be totally wiped out. It's almost like they're built out of cardboard in a lot of ways out there. And my house actually was hit by an EF2 tornado back in 2015, and it sustained a ton of roof damage. And believe it or not, Gizmo was actually in the house when that tornado hit my house, and I was on a different storm. So I actually ended up missing the tornado that hit my house, and Gizmo got a tornado intercept. The armored vehicle was parked in the driveway, and somehow I ended up missing that tornado, but Gizmo got it. But there's really nothing you can do to your home to tornado proof it, but you can get a shelter. You can have a basement. You can have an above ground shelter too. That'll work. And a lot of homes in Tornado Alley and Dixie Alley have those above ground tornado shelters that you can get into.
What is Flex Seal going to do for any of the stuff you've described?
Well, Flex Seal is my only sponsor. So,
well, we're getting them in here.
Flex
I
Seal-
want to know where Flex Seal comes in handy with fucking hail balls coming through and fucking all this shit. All right.
Yeah. So Flex Seal has held together my car for years.
I could tell.
Held the bumper on. It has waterproofed my car. And a lot of times when the windows will bust out, I'll do a temporary fix with Flex Seal on the outside, and that'll work to kind of keep the rain out of the car. And sometimes, I'll drive through a flood and it'll rip my bumper off, and then I'll have to use flex tape to keep the bumper on.
It's a pretty good ad campaign for Flex Seal. They're tornado proof.
That is, I'm a big Flex Seal guy.
And now they've got a new product, a flood protection product. So you can actually cover your home with the flood protection line. And ahead of a storm, if it's a river flood or a coastal flood or one of those, or a big hurricane's going to come in, you can actually cover the lower 3 feet of your home or so. And you're supposed to leave, of course. I would want to stay with the home and ride out the flood, but they've even got a flood protection line. And but yeah, it's actually held, kept my car.
The same one, the one you call, the same one that you call the fucking whatever it is.
Well, there's the Dominator 1, 2, and 3. Those are the armored storm chasing
Not
vehicles.
the armored one, the one you do crazy.
The one I have, that one's the Dominator 4, but I do crazy stuff in the armored ones too. But I still storm chase in the Dominator 4, just almost as crazy, really close to the tornado or the hurricanes. And that's a Subaru Forester. So I got that in 2018, brand new. I still owe like 15 grand on it, and it got swept away by Hurricane
I think Flex
Ian.
Seal should be fucking handling that payment if you ask me.
Are you a lot safer in the Dominator than like a rental car? You got to be, right?
The armored vehicle, the Dominator, you're safer in that than a rental car. But if you're in the Dominator 4, that's just a regular vehicle covered in hail dents, and you're not really safer in that relative to a rental car. It's probably about the same.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I know exactly how to keep it pointed into the wind. I know how to get close to a tornado. I know all that stuff to keep us alive and still get really close to a tornado. And we'll be deploying sensors. We'll be flex taping sensors to power poles and everything in the path of the tornado. Gizmo will be going nuts.
Great.
What will Bob's job be on the chase?
Good question, Scott.
Great question. Bob will be a navigator, definitely. He'll be navigating the vehicle, making sure that we're making the right turns. He'll have to know which direction we're facing all the time and how to get us in the path of the tornado.
Might just be your time to go, Reed.
Looking at radar and everything, too.
It's a lot of responsibility, Bob. No IG while you're chasing the storms.
Yeah. Is there
commentating the chase?
Yeah, is there live IG feeds on there? Like, can I go live from inside the tornado? Does it have or is the power lines all fucked up and all that shit?
No, you can go live. That's pretty much what I do. Is I go live on Facebook. I go live on YouTube. I don't do IG as much, but I mean. Yeah, let it rip. If you're in there, go live the whole time. You can be inside of the tornado. Sometimes when you get close to the tornado, the storm can kind of disrupt your signal a little bit.
Yeah, I think so.
I should have kept these headphones on. It's a lot easier.
Aren't they best?
Yeah.
Aren't they unbelievable when you hear it?
Yeah.
You hear it and you sound like you're so much more in it.
You can even hear that little tickle, that little polyp in my
Oh,
vocal
yeah,
cord.
but it's all good. That's it. Scotty could fix that in his $200 Buffy's post-game show, review. So, all right. So, if we do go down Wednesday, how do you look at, like, 'cause me and you spoke about it. We maybe want to go down to Mississippi or fucking Tornado Alley, wherever it is. And we want to go look at these storms. How do you know if it's a hit or miss? If it's going to be, what do you do as a meteorologist to look at that stuff?
Well, we use forecast models, and my forecasting process is honed to find tornadoes and hail pretty much. So I'm looking for instability, and I'm looking for wind shear, the changing wind speed and direction with height, low-level wind shear, and deep layer shear. that's what carves up these storms like a turkey and causes them to rotate. So if you have a storm with no wind shear, then it's not going to spin. It's just going to go up and kind of collapse on itself. Those are the storms that you get a lot of times in Florida in the summer. But when you get wind shear, that changing wind speed and direction with height, it causes the storm to rotate. And then it gets really severe. It's capable of stronger updrafts, bigger hail, bigger downdrafts. It's capable of producing tornadoes too. So I'm trying to look at the wind shear and exactly how that wind shear is lined up and if it's strong at the low levels. And on Wednesday, there's really strong wind shear. So if a storm's able to develop, it'll probably produce a big-time tornado, be moving at like 60 miles an hour. We'll have one shot at it until it blows by us, and we'll have to hop on a different storm. But if there's no storm, then there's, of course, not going to be a tornado. So you need that instability. You need a front coming in. You need that to develop the storm. And then if it encounters that wind shear, then it'll start to spin.
What about lightning? Lightning's got to be a thing that's got to be dangerous out there too, right?
Yeah, and that's probably one of our biggest threats, our lightning, because right when the
We
storm...
didn't even factor that one in yet, Scotty. Put that on the fucking whiteboard. Forgot about the lightning. Yep, go ahead, Reed. Let's put this on air. Can't wait. Mississippi, here we come. Go ahead.
But lightning's not as predictable either, so it can just come out of nowhere and potentially impact us. I've never been struck by lightning. I've been impacted by a streamer.
Neither have I, Reed.
Yeah.
Neither is Scott. None of us have. It's a very rare thing. Go ahead.
But it does ramp up in the bear's cage just before a tornado touches down is when the lightning starts to ramp up and you get positively charged lightning strikes. And so that's kind of when you know that a storm is about to intensify because all these lightning strikes start happening everywhere. And
They're right around you?
Yeah, they're all around you, definitely.
Why don't? But they say the car is the safest place to be in.
Yeah, if you're inside of a car, but a lot of times you want to be outside of the car too and just in the environment around the tornado, looking at it, because you can see it in 3D. And the supercells look like UFOs. They're like motherships with stacked plates. We call them pancake stacks. So that's what the rotating updraft is. There's all kinds of slang for a mothership, supercell, but the pancake stack or stacked plates is what they look like, and they're really smooth, and you can see the whole thing spinning.
Yeah, is it true that, when lightning strikes, is this like a myth? But when lightning strikes, you can tell how far the storm is based on the difference between the lightning and the thunder?
Yeah, you could definitely tell at least how far the lightning strike is because, the speed of sound, of course, and kind of the difference between when you actually see it and when you hear it. There's a lag there because the speed of sound is slower, of course, than the speed of light. But we'll be right up in there so close to the storm.
So it's like lightning thunder.
For instant, yeah. I mean,
Like,
immediate.
pow.
Just pow. You see, there's no lag. You're so close to the lightning. But I wouldn't worry about the lightning. I wouldn't even think about it if I were you.
No, I'm not going to.
The hail, the supercell, the tornadoes, the core punches, those are all really predictable, and they also can be dangerous.
Yeah,
We
no,
might have
I
to
don't
be
really
wearing
think a lot of
helmets.
this is not dangerous. So I think we're just going to chalk everything up as dangerous during this whole entire venture that we're going to have together. Quick question for you, Reed. You know what I think would be a great business for you, dude? You know how people
Tours?
do? You know how people do whale watches, Scott? Why don't people do like tornado watches with you? Like,
I've done that. I've been in that business, and that is probably not a business that you'd want to be involved in. But we of course did it back in the day. We started Extreme Tornado Tours, or ETT, where we got these vans, and all my friends were the guides out there that were storm chasing and pile everybody in there. And I'm not very good with paperwork, so you can imagine. we
yeah.
didn't
You're like,
have
come on
all-
in, sign your life away. You're good.
Didn't have the insurance in place or any of that. Now they're a good operation. So I ended up giving that company to my friend, and he knows how to run it. Is good with paperwork, runs a proper business, but. For a while there, Extreme Tornado Tours, we'd pack guests in there. And if you think storm chasers are crazy, someone that signs up for an Extreme Tornado Tour is even more crazy.
What are you putting them in? Like a school bus?
Yeah, they do the magic school bus. They go right into the F5.
It's just a regular van, one of those elongated vans. Just kind of a
that's
regular
got to be
van.
an interesting group of people who sign up for the
Right?
What was the name of the company?
MagicSchoolBus.com.
Extreme Tornado Tours.
Extreme
There's
Tornado
that new
Tours.
movie Supercell that's coming out with Alec Baldwin.
Yeah.
I think that movie is based off of our old tour company.
Really?
Because we had an incident with ETT where we were chasing the tornado and there was big hail that came up and they were a little bit north of us. We were watching the tornado, intercepted that, and we went north right after the tornado, and we see the Extreme Tornado Tours vans parked on the side of the road, and they're all just like celebrating, hanging out of these busted out windows covered in blood.
No
So they
way.
had blood streaming down their arms and everything. and their windows were blown out by softball-sized hail. And I thought to myself, oh, boy, I'm in trouble. You know,
Right.
they're going to probably sue us.
There's a cut. There's any, yeah.
But we get to the hotel afterward, the Super 8, and they're just all celebrating. They're like, that was the best day of my life. Thank you.
Reed's
You
like,
know,
come again.
the
Thank you all for coming tomorrow. There'll
The
be another.
tornado was crazy. A bright white tornado, huge hailstones wrapping around it. And it was one of the best times of their life. But the guides that we had back then, a couple of them got in accidents and stuff. And we did have some really bad situations. One time they checked all the guests into a hotel, dropped off all their luggage, and then a tornado was coming up. They got piled back into the van, started chasing the tornado, and then the hotel got hit by the tornado. They lost all their stuff.
No way.
Yeah.
Well, you got to expect that. If you're going to sign up for something like that, that's in the paperwork. You got to.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say, Reed, you're obviously very passionate about weather, but how much of it is adrenaline based?
They loved it, yeah. But I have to stress that Extreme Tornado Tours is a great company. That's the only place that I would go for tours because he runs it really well now. But
It's active right now.
yeah,
And that's
it's
a
active
buddy.
right
How
now.
do you get to these things?
ExtremeTornadoTours.com.
Yeah, ExtremeTornadoTours.com. And
Yeah.
Scotty asked a question
Be
there.
there.
Is it? Yeah, be there.
That's
be
the
there now. Be there.
Be there.
Be there. You may not return, but be there. And Scott just asked, is this more just an adrenaline junkie thing for you?
No.
Because he has a weather background too, Scott.
Yeah, no, the adrenaline, honestly, is the tough part of all this. So after doing this for 25 years, when I drink a cup of coffee now, like my adrenal receptors are so sensitive, I start sweating and everything. And so I wish that we didn't have the adrenaline rush side of it.
Yeah, you're
honestly.
probably going to have that, though, for a while, chasing tornadoes. I don't think that's going to go away.
But I'm a scientist. You know, I love the meteorology. I went to University of Oklahoma for 17 years, continuously enrolled, because I was storm chasing a lot down there as well. And but you know, I love the science of it, the forecasting. I love launching sensors into it. But I am a raw storm chaser too. My whole life is dedicated to storm chasing. You know, and it will be for the rest of my life with medical advancements. I'm hoping for maybe another 50, 60 years of.
One day, Reed's
Fine,
going to be
storm
sitting there with a
chasing.
coffee. He's going to put it up. He's going to hang his shirt up or his fucking medal up or whatever the fuck you want to call it. He's be sitting there with coffee. He'd be like, there's going to be all these people going out to chase this storm. He's be like, yep, I did that one day. I used to do that back in the day. Were you ever going to hang it up?
No, this is it.
I mean, you can't be in a fucking walker, 80 years old chasing these things, can you?
You could be. Yeah, you could
You have
be
to
in a
be
walker.
somewhat athletic.
That's what the Dominator's for, bro.
Well, actually, you don't need to be athletic, actually, because you can't run from these fucking things.
Yeah, you don't really need to be. I mean, and you eat a lot of bad food out there. We eat a lot of gas station burritos, a lot of fast food, all sips burritos too. So there's a lot of it that's probably bad for you.
I'm going to bring a catering chef when we go.
You
Just
got
so-
to drive long distances though.
I love that.
Yeah.
I chased one. Well, I had one chase in my life. I went from. I saw some stuff. I think you had talked to me about it briefly, but I kind of just thought I was the man and tried to chase it on my own, and ended up in a sunnier place. Like I went 5 hours. I drove in an Escalade with this driver.
I think I remember that.
Yeah, you remember that?
We were trying. Yeah, you're.
I'm like, where do I go, Reed? Where do I go? He's like, you are not even close. I'm like, I am in sunny skies.
You took an Uber to chase tornadoes?
Yeah, I took an Uber SUV black to fucking chase a tornado. And
Yeah.
now that I know about the hail shit, I'm a little bit shouldn't have done that. But it turned out all right, Reed was one of the biggest guys on the news, I'd say, with the Florida got absolutely decimated with the hurricane. Would you say absolutely decimated, or was it as bad as they predicted it to be?
It was definitely near and just to the south, and in fact, it was a lot worse. And it hit in a different location. So initially, it looked like it was heading up toward Tampa and maybe even toward the Big Bend region of Florida. But then as it passed over Cuba, it started to ramp up and intensify. And it went over the warm waters of the loop current. And it intensified at the last second and did a right-hand turn and came right into Fort Myers Beach.
That was the place that got hit the hardest.
Yeah.
I was in the Dominican Republic, so that was where it came. It started the Dominican, right? Did it cross over the Dominican?
It went just south of the Dominican and then came up over the western side of Cuba. But you could tell it was going further east the whole time because it crossed over Cuba a little bit further east. I was chasing tornadoes the day before in the outer bands over the Everglades. So a lot of times you get tornadoes too in the outer bands of hurricanes, and a hurricane chase can turn into a tornado chase and a hurricane chasing hybrid.
Oh, that's got to be like your Super Bowl.
But my buddy Chris, his mom had a house on Pine Island on the Barrier Island right near Sanibel. And so I spent the night there the night before, and we woke up and it was almost a Category 5. And he's like, Mom, it's time to go. and he evacuated her, and we thought it was going to head up toward Punta Gorda. And so I left. I went up there in the little Subaru car.
Yeah.
And it ended up turning harder right. And you want to be in the right eye wall for the most extreme conditions, because then you add the forward speed of the hurricane and you have the storm surge, the 15, potentially 20-foot wall of water that comes in. And if you're on a barrier island, you get the wind right off the ocean. So there's no friction, just wind, maximum wind gusting up to 200 miles an hour, tornado-like vortices in it. And then the storm surge arrives too, 15 to 20-foot wall of water. And that's what ended up taking my car. But when the hurricane started doing the right-hand turn, Chris and I went back to his mom's house, met there, and I was streaming live, and the storm surge was already coming up, lapping at the base of the house. And I saw it, ran toward the storm surge, jumped over the fence, and I'm already chest deep in the storm surge. And everybody on my live stream thought that it was a random house that I went into to seek shelter, that I broke into, but it wasn't. It was my friends out on the barrier island.
Which I don't think there's any problems of breaking into houses at that point.
Yeah, I think you're actually allowed to break into a home if you need shelter.
Yeah, I was
maybe
gonna
as
say,
a storm
I think
chaser,
you're good.
if you're there on purpose as a storm chaser, there could be kind of a gray area there, I think. But we went back to my friend's mom's house and rode it out there because it was a stilt home. I knew it was a fortress and that it could handle the Category 5, but it was crazy. The whole house was rattling back and forth. We got inside the blue sky eye. There was about a 15-foot wall of water that came in, and my car was just bobbing up and down across the front yard.
And you must see horrific. Are you seeing people's lives being lost in front of you or no?
I have, unfortunately.
In the Florida area, with the Florida stuff.
Well, in the Florida, you do see the storm surge, and so unfortunately, you don't actually see lives being lost directly, but you know that it's happening.
You know that this is a really bad thing going on here, and people are fucking going.
Especially with the storm surge coming in with that slingshot effect into Fort Myers Beach, and we deployed a storm surge sensor there. So we deployed these sensors ahead of the storm surge, and they measure the depth of the water, the salinity of the water, and they stream that data live. So when the storm surge is coming in, all that data is streamed live so that we can monitor the flood as it's happening. But we mounted that on the pier, and when we came back to recover the sensor, the whole entire pier was ripped apart. So,
break down what a storm surge is in the easiest way possible. Is it like water coming up from that's already what's a storm surge?
It's basically a coastal flood associated with a hurricane. 75% of it's caused by the onshore flow piling up the water, and it's like a tsunami. So basically a tsunami-like wall of water comes with waves on top of it. And also the low pressure of the hurricane causes a little bubble rise in the ocean surface, so you get that as well, and basically inundates all the low-lying areas. But it's the most dangerous part of a hurricane is the storm surge. It's not really the wind that's as dangerous, but the storm surge, that tsunami-like wall of water that comes in, coupled with the 200-mile-an-hour winds, are kind of the most dangerous part. But it's different than a tornado because a hurricane is so large that you can't really comprehend the curvature. It almost feels like a straight line wind at the surface.
Feels like you're always in it. Is that what it is?
Yeah, you're in it for
ever. You're in it. You can't get out of it.
6-12 hours of extreme. But the real powerful winds are right in the eye wall of the hurricane, kind of that donut-shaped ring right around the eye. So the real strong winds are just concentrated in that eye.
And then inside of the eye wall, is that where it's the most peaceful, they say?
Yeah, that's the eye of the storm, and a lot of times there's blue sky above you. The wind will subside, and a lot of times you see birds in the eye too, and they're tired. They're crashing out of the sky, and I've been chasing hurricanes before where we get out and start driving around inside of the eye, and seagulls are crashing into the windshield, just flopping around because they're so fatigued.
Right. They have nowhere to go.
So they'll get picked up on islands or like pass over Cuba or something, and then they are stuck in the eye until it finally makes landfall again.
What does that do to the sea life? Does it all the sharks and everything come on the land and all that?
They can, yeah.
I was gonna say like in Florida too, it had
alligators.
I'm
snakes.
a big like crazy crocodile guy too. Like I don't know why. Like a fascination with tornadoes and crocodiles. Do you have the same fascination with crocodiles? You don't really give a fuck.
No, I love reptiles and amphibians. I did that event in Science Olympiad when I was growing up. Just reptiles, amphibians, insects, snakes. I love snakes too. And
really, can you hold one without being scared?
Yeah.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Wow. That's pretty.
I'm one of those. The rock flippers or worm pickers. So like sometimes before storm chases, we'll go out there and flip rocks and look for snakes, look for milk snakes and copperheads and scorpions and stuff. So.
You ever have an experience where an animal kind of predicts the weather? Like in a lot of these movies, the birds will fly away when they know a big storm's coming.
Good question.
Whatever.
Is that a real thing?
Yeah, I think it is, and you definitely see cattle kind of point their rear end toward the wind and toward the tornado. So you see a lot of it happen with cattle, and then they'll be sitting there, and then something will spook them, and then they all start running at the same time. And I have seen cows fly through the air too on that one tornado in Wyoming. So just like the movie Twister happened, it did actually happen in real life, and people lose cattle a lot of times.
Yeah, I was going to say it's got to be hard for business too.
They're fenced in, and oh yeah, I mean those in eastern Wyoming, that tornado that took the cattle. I mean that's their livelihood, and
Yeah,
I don't know if you can get tornado insurance for cattle.
I'm assuming there's got to be something. There's got to be something. So you do hurricanes, tornadoes.
Yeah, tornadoes, hurricanes. Tornadoes are more of a finesse type of a storm chase, faster paced. It's a smaller scale feature, more powerful though. So like a tornado is incredibly powerful because the wind is constantly accelerating. A lot of times it's a pretty tight radius, but like that El Reno, Oklahoma tornado, the one back in 2013, that one had a diameter of 2.5 miles. So that's the widest one in history.
Moore was too like that though. Wasn't Moore upwards of the 2013 one was with Moore, Oklahoma? Wasn't that?
That one was about a half mile at its widest.
Okay.
And May 3rd, 99 was also the F5 that hit Moore. That was the first one that we chased that we ended up underneath an overpass as freshmen. There were families freaking out underneath the overpass. People were sucked out of the overpass too as that one crossed I-35. And there was actually a baby that was ripped out of her mother's arms.
Survived.
And they found the baby, survived.
Like hundreds of yards?
Yeah, maybe even miles. And they found the baby in a tree unscathed, and she still does interviews to this day about tornadoes and during tornado season and stuff. But kind of a crazy story how that it was, I think Shields Boulevard, maybe on I-35 in Oklahoma.
Yeah. You ever do forest fires?
I do forest fires too because I work with AccuWeather. I'm a news on the news side of things too, and so I've covered a lot of forest fires too. Not as many forest fires, but I've always just missed a firestorm too, because you can get fire nados that will develop on the edge of a forest fire, and those are caused by the gradient of the heat, and they can actually be strong, just like tornadoes. So they'll develop on the edge of the fire in the burn zone, and they'll propagate away from the burn zone and cause damage and destroy homes just outside of the fire.
It's the same kind of thing. It's a tornado shape.
Yep. And actually the pyrocumulus cloud above it will almost become a mesocyclone or a rotating updraft.
Wow.
So those giant fires can be capable of even producing fire nados, they're called, and they can be capable of EF3 damage.
Yeah.
Like the one that I saw in Redding, California. I saw the damage, and it was removed from the burn zone. And that was the one with the crazy video of the firefighters that I think they had their hose sucked out by the fire nado.
Yeah.
I would be afraid of.
Are you medicating at all during this? Are you like smoking weed? Are you doing any like drinking? Like, are you doing anything like calm your nerves or get you in a different state where you don't have to fucking, I don't know. It just seems like it's freaking the fuck. I'd have to be drunk for this shit.
Never during the chase. You always have to be sharp when you're driving and chasing.
Hey, you got a little bottle of Jack, I know, next to you. It's a bit away at it, you know.
To sleep at night, I need the all natural sleep aid. You know, I've been for 20 years now probably. I think it takes, keeps the prostate swelling down when you're driving that much, and helps you sleep, because starting at about age 27, I started not being able to sleep. I think that's when the adrenal fatigue started.
Mm-hmm. What is the adrenal? That's the adrenaline thing.
Just you keep getting adrenaline pumps, and then like your receptors get so sensitive that you drink a cup of coffee and you get fired up, and like just little things will get you all.
It's almost like post-traumatic stress, yeah.
Yeah, except it's positive stress for me. So, but starting around age 27 or so, right then I started taking Tylenol PM just to go to sleep. Mm-hmm. And then I realized after doing that for a while that all natural sleep aids are the only way, and exercise. And someone sent me a book randomly that was titled Adrenal Fatigue. Yeah. Because they saw me in Storm Chasers, and I had these sweat stains the size of dinner plates that would develop.
Right.
And they could see that I had adrenal fatigue. But yeah, I definitely do have to exercise a lot to try to prevent that from getting too bad. You get a little inflammation too, but
after you go through this whole chase and everything like that, and you're all fucking bloodied and badgered and fucking whatever, I mean, are you just pulling up to a random Motel 6? Like, how is the living situation when you're going to like hotel to hotel, and because you don't know where the fuck you're gonna be half the time?
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like being a band on the road a little bit too, especially when we're in the armored vehicles and when we were doing a show. You have all your camera guys too that you're best friends with, and you go drive into a tornado, and then you check into a Motel 6. A lot of times they're kind of beaten down hotels too. Like we've stayed in some really bad places. A lot of times.
What does
you
it
sit
matter
in
at
your
that point?
car.
You were just in the worst place possible.
Yeah, and they have character too. Those hotels on the plains, you
Yeah.
know, especially the ones that you kind of that open up to the outside. Then you all get rooms right next to each other.
Were they like $55 a pop? No card needed.
Yeah, they're pretty relatively cheap. Unless you're up in the northern plains around Sturgis, then things are expensive because everybody's coming to the Black Hills, all the
Okay.
motorcyclists and everything. So then it can be then you kind of have to watch out for some of those bigger events that happen because a lot of times June and July you're up in the Dakotas because you start off in the early spring down in Dixie Alley in the Mid-South. You're kind of in the jungle, we call it, a lot of trees. You have to use drones, pop drones in the air, kind of like a periscope.
And you shoot the drones around for what? To see where all the fucking shit's being formulated and all the whatever.
Yeah, because if you're buried in the forest, you have to pop it up like a periscope, and then you can see the tornado coming at you.
Well, if you're in the forest, that's got to be the most dangerous place to be in a tornado, right?
It is because you can't see it, and you're trying to see it, and you kind of have to line it up. You can use radar a little bit. You can kind of see the edge of the cloud start to spin, and then it comes and trees start getting flattened.
Yeah.
Like the super outbreak of 2011 is the biggest tornado outbreak in history, and that happened in the Mid-South. We call it Dixie Alley. And that's where all the trees were. And there were over 200 tornadoes on that day from a single outbreak. 3 EF5s, double-digit EF3s, EF4s. And that's the craziest outbreak that I've ever chased. If that ever happens again, that's when you got to come out with Team Dominator.
We'll go a little slower than that. But then there's
But a cloud would develop, and the atmosphere was so primed for tornadoes that a cloud would form, and it would have a tornado on the ground before it was even producing rain.
and it's like at that point it's like tornado everywhere.
Basically, every storm was producing a tornado, and a lot of them were F5s. The storm would develop. It would put down an F5. You'd chase that until you couldn't anymore, drop south. The storm would be dropping debris like 30 miles before the tornado would arrive. So the tornado's pulling up debris, and then it gets carried downstream, and debris is raining out of the sky when the tornado's 30 miles away.
Wow.
But the damage from that super outbreak was crazy. I mean, across multiple states, multiple rounds, wave after wave of tornado-producing supercells, people just sitting ducks in the path of them, a lot of them mobile homes too.
Right.
No shelters to go to.
How long is the I mean, you got to realize too, because you don't think about it. Because what happens when we watch on the news, right? You see this whole entire town like flatline, right? And then 2 days later, the news goes, and it's just like we forget about it. But at the same time, it's like, where do these people just? Do they just go somewhere else? Do they rebuild the town? Like, what's the time length for that?
A lot of times they rebuild the town, and sometimes they have nowhere to go. Like the recent tornadoes that went through Kentucky, December 10 and 11, 2021. Those people were lodged in at the state parks around the area too. They're turned
Sleeping
into
outside?
shelters. Well, they turned the lodges
Yeah.
at the state parks into shelters and everything because so many towns were hit across western Kentucky, like Mayfield and Bremen, and all of those communities were hit that people had nowhere to go. And so a lot of times they don't have anywhere to go. Sometimes they don't even rebuild. Like there was an F4 tornado I was chasing in 2003, that big wedge that I sent you the video of.
Yep.
Where my friend was freaking out in the back seat.
Backseat,
with
yeah. The
23.
kid was having a panic attack. Yeah.
He ended up being a famous lightning researcher.
Funny how that goes. Maybe I'll find the same fate.
Yeah. Yeah.
Bob turned into a lightning fucking researcher, whatever the fuck it is. So is he?
But that town wasn't rebuilt though. That one.
It's
Manchester.
it's just done.
Yeah, the tornado leveled the town and they turned it into a ghost town just because only a couple hundred people live there. But that one was the famous storm researcher Tim Samaras, the late Tim Samaras. He measured the world record pressure fall inside of that tornado because he dropped a probe in the path of it. And that's another way to record data inside is to drop a probe and then get out of the path and then let the tornado move over the probe. And he measured a pressure fall of about 100 millibars, negative 100 millibars in there. So that's what blows your eardrums out when you're in the
How
tornado.
good would you say on a scale of 1 to 10 is like tornado technology right now? And can it get any better as far as letting people know that a tornado is imminent, that it's coming? Is it at the top of its game right now and won't get any better? What advances can they make, with whatever fucking, science or whatever the fuck they can do that can get people information faster to be able to? Why are you laughing? Am I fucking? Do I not know what the fuck?
I thought it was a good question.
No, that's a great question.
Reed just laughs at me with this shit. I'm like,
Hey,
Reed, I'm
well,
trying to fucking figure this out. All right.
You're like the science.
I'm
shit.
just so happy. I'm just so happy to be here. I think.
Oh, dude, so am
I've
I.
watched your videos so much, and I'm
Yeah.
a big fan. That I can't help but to laugh too. And
Man, we've had some great times. And the fact is we haven't done this face-to-face is so amazing.
Yeah.
So back to my fucking question here. Okay. All right. What'd you say? Scale of 1 to 10. How good is the fucking technology when it comes to being able to, if you're in an area that's tornado prone and then fucking for you to get the information over, is it something where they need to spend more money in that area to develop that technology better? Or is there a way to fucking stop the tornadoes from shooting out of the skies? I mean, can we do that?
Yeah, I mean, we could we probably can't shoot the tornado out of the sky yet because it would take more power and it would cause more damage than the tornado itself potentially.
Yeah.
Like there have been theories that you could detonate a nuke or something near a tornado and it would disrupt the tornado, of course. But then
seems like we need to find a plan B other than that.
Yeah, that wouldn't work, of course. And I think it would take more force than to disrupt the tornado. But the technology to find tornadoes using radar has come a long way. And forecasting tornadoes, tornado warning lead times have gotten a lot better. There are the dual pole radars that are out there at most of the big towns. They can actually see debris as it's getting lofted. So you can see what's called a TDS or a tornado debris signature. And when it's in tandem with rotation, if that rotation is stronger, you can actually get a rating on how strong the tornado is based on that radar information. But there's still a lot of radar holes that are out there. And over areas that get a lot of tornadoes, like the Arklatex, southeast Oklahoma and northeast Texas, there's a big radar hole there. So you got to plug those holes with radar sites, and if you get more radars too, if there was a project a long time ago about mounting miniature radars on every single cell phone tower, and if you had that, then it would be impossible to miss any tornadoes.
And what's the reason behind that? Cost, or just people don't care?
Probably cost. It ended up coming down to cost, I bet. But if you had enough radars, you could at least detect tornadoes with a lot more lead time. But you still need to make changes, too, on the infrastructure because there's so many people in mobile homes that are in the path of the tornadoes that they don't have anything that they can do.
Besides move, and they obviously probably don't have the means to move.
But, I mean, you see some of those towns, those mobile homes, and, like, the bathtub is just ripped out and thrown.
Isn't that the safest place to fucking be, though?
If you have nowhere else to go, if you can't get below ground, if you don't have a tornado shelter, then a bathroom or interior closet is a place to be. But now it's being shown that a mobile home might even be more dangerous than a vehicle, and that if you're in a mobile home, it's safer to get out of your mobile home and get in a vehicle. And I can attest to that. Vehicles can survive a lot of winds, especially if you keep it pointed into the wind. Like I've survived probably close to a 180-mile-an-hour wind gust or so in a vehicle because they're so aerodynamic and are designed to go pretty quickly down the road. So, but it's still dangerous even in a car because if debris starts moving it lifts up a little bit, then your car can get lofted pretty easily if it's a strong enough tornado.
Right, and then there's no fucking whatever. So say hypothetically, you just convinced me so much to go with you on these trips. By the way,
no, you would love it.
Can't fucking wait.
It's not dangerous.
I'm fucking
safe.
in. I just told you I'm in. If there's anybody go out, I'm going out with fucking Timmer and a fucking thing, and I'll just write my eulogy speech. I'll write it out before we'll fucking talk about it. I'm fucking in. Hypothetically speaking, actually, with or without me involved. You finished this interview. You're in Los Angeles, California. You came down here to sit down with me, obviously, to do this episode. What is your schedule like? Where do you go? And what is it based on? Is it based on weather patterns? Is it based on, you got shit you got to do? What is it?
Yeah, it's entirely weather, and that's all I do.
That's what I thought the answer would be.
That's basically all I do is storm chase. I've dedicated my life 100% to storm chasing, especially since my divorce, just the last 6 or 7 years.
Is it therapeutic?
Well, I think that I've just dedicated my life to it. I feel like that's my craft, and I've ever since I was 16, even before that, I've been obsessed with storm chasing, and every decision that I make is usually to chase more storms or to chase storms better or longer. So I'm just committed 100% to storm chasing, and I'm always watching the forecasts, always flying by the seat of my pants. Like right now, I'm not sure if I'm going to cover the 90-mile-an-hour winds in the San Bernardinos here with big snow, or should I cover the blizzard in Minneapolis where they're going to get 2 feet of snow? Or are you and I going to go to Memphis and chase the fast-moving tornado threat? I don't want to waste a marginal risk on our chase. So I'm going to tee up a super outbreak probably for you, or a big event.
I mean, like I said, though, also, not trying to be whatever and funny, like it's like a normal chase. I wouldn't, I'm not looking for viral shit. I'm looking for just, kick it with you and hang out. I don't need anything special. I don't need a big fucking
thing. But I want to show you a tornado.
Yeah,
just
no,
to
I know
show
you do.
and show you the storm. And
it's not the biggest deal if we don't find one,
Yeah, and there's a chance we wouldn't. It's kind of like
Is it? What would you say the percentage is? of finding one, going out for one?
Well, I would have you come out for one where it was pretty high. So, it can get higher than 50% for an event. Like the super outbreak of 2011, you would have to make serious mistakes not to see a tornado because there are so many storms that are producing. And like April 15, 2011, there are 150 tornadoes. May 24, in fact, the entire 2011 season was crazy. Over 700 tornadoes in April of 2011 alone, which is the most active month in recorded history for tornadoes.
Right.
And there are some indications that this year could be similarly active, or kind of Tornado Alley returning to being active. Like the last 3 years, we've had a La Nina out in the Pacific, which is cold water in the tropical Pacific, and that is associated with kind of faster moving storm systems, a lot of dry meets moist. And I think that we're going to see, as that subsides, I think we're going to see Tornado Alley kind of return to prominence probably starting this spring.
What are the worst top 3 places that is heavily populated that you can live in the United States that you're more than likely to get whacked by one of these things?
I would say Memphis, the Birmingham, Tuscaloosa.
In the city,
area.
though? In the city of Memphis?
Oh, yeah. I mean, cities don't stop tornadoes.
No, I knew that, but
They
I'm
could
saying...
happen. But it seems like they don't hit any given point, is unlikely to get hit by a tornado. But I would say the downtown locations in Dixie Alley, like Memphis, Birmingham, Alabama, along the I-20 corridor, Meridian, Mississippi, Jackson, Mississippi gets really close calls. Vicksburg, Mississippi there, and in Louisiana, you get Monroe. New Orleans has been hit in the city just the last couple of years.
Yeah.
They had a violent tornado.
Out of the 3 places that you named, the 90-mile-per-hour winds, the blizzard, or chasing the tornado, option A, option B, option C, rank them for most dangerous for you, one by one by one. Which one out of those 3? What's the most dangerous out of the 3?
Assuming the tornado one ends up going big.
Tornado goes better than you would think. You fucking go there and there's a fucking big fucking EF banger fucking flying down the road. Is that the number one? Is it more dangerous than the blizzard?
Yeah, I would say that tornadoes are more dangerous just because of the hydroplaning potential, and you're probably not going to get hit by the tornado, but just the driving is pretty crazy. But
Buffalo is pretty nuts, though. You spent a lot of time in Scott. He was down in. You remember Buffalo that got pummeled? So he was down there with that was nuts.
Yeah, that is probably one of the most dangerous storms I've ever chased.
I was mad they didn't play football.
You're talking about the first Buffalo. There were 2 Buffalo blizzards.
Was the first one worse?
The first one was more snow, but not as bad. So it was like 80 inches of snow, 81.2 inches. And the second one was right at Christmas, and that was a full-blown blizzard, like 70, 80-mile-an-hour winds. People trapped in their vehicles. Sadly, people lost their lives, too. They would venture out and get stuck in their car. We pulled people out of their car that were stuck in their car and just disoriented and didn't have the proper gear. And they were like 50 yards from a shelter.
Wow.
And that was crazy. There was a storm surge coming off the eastern tip of Lake Erie called a seiche.
What is a seiche?
A Great Lakes storm surge. So when you get those big low pressure systems, the wind down the length of the Great Lake will pile up the water on the downwind side of it. And so I went out there just before the seiche arrived, right as the lake effect snowband was starting to just rip off the tip of Lake Erie. And you got these like 4 or 5 inch per hour snowfall rates. And then this ice cold storm surge came off the tip of Lake Erie, and it felt warm. It was like 40-degree water, but the surrounding air was like 10 degrees that this storm surge was hitting me in the face, and it felt warm. And then you look around at the trees, and it was freezing on the trees, just shattering everywhere. The surface was getting icy. I was getting wet. And it was like 10 degrees, 70-mile-an-hour wind, and I got separated from my hotel. So I was a little worried I was going to slide back into Lake Erie even there. But
not much to do with earthquakes, though, right? You can't do much with earthquakes?
No, yeah, I'm not very Yeah, they're harder to chase and predict. I guess you could go after one if a big one happened and go after the aftershocks.
But then you're just not guaranteed, and it's...
Or clusters. And I have experienced earthquakes. In Oklahoma, we've been getting a couple of those.
Right.
Back in 2011, we had that 5.6, and that was like a day before EF4 tornado out there.
Is LA fucked at all, from what you know? Are they going to eventually, when they have this big one, what's going to happen here?
I think so, but I would be more even. Yeah, I think so, definitely. I mean, I think part of California could, it could have big problems. I think the big earthquake could come in. I'm not an expert on earthquakes, though. I'm more of an atmosphere guy, certainly, but definitely could happen. Or, a volcano in Mount St. Helens could erupt again, or Yellowstone, or one of those. I do chase a lot of those flood events in the monsoon season when you try to catch the front wall of it coming down.
Mm-hmm.
So like a volcanic eruption in the Pacific Northwest would instantly vaporize all those snow caps, and you just have a flash flood from hell probably coming down those high peaks.
Really? That's
Yeah.
scary as shit.
Instant vaporizing, and then it would. I mean, they used to get huge flash floods down the Colorado River back in the day, but now it's dammed up a bit, and now you get smaller flash floods in the tributaries that try to flow toward the Grand Canyon.
You know, Scott, what Reed sent me a picture of was some fucking hot air balloon again or something. Was that a joke?
Oh, the balloon? No, that was out near Hawaii. So,
What is the balloon?
but we just had the National Storm Chaser Convention recently out in Oklahoma, and that was at the same time that the China balloon was out, and so we were all thinking about chasing it because all the social media eyes were on that.
Yeah.
So I was going live during a tornado outbreak, and no one cared. Everybody was focused on the balloon.
Right.
So we were all thinking about just chasing the balloon across the country.
you
My
see-
mom saw it.
Could you see the balloon? That's what I was saying. Could you see it?
Yeah, you could see it.
Wow. And they ended up shooting that down?
Well, I think you could see, yeah, you could see it. A couple of my Storm Chaser friends had some really long lenses and shot some of the electronics on the bottom part. And the engineer that I work with, Chase and Spin on Twitter, he builds all our sensors, our miniaturized sensors, and he launches balloons, designs all the electronics, and he was breaking down the electronics in the bottom.
Right. That's
Saw the
fucking
solar
crazy.
panels and everything with it. But my mom actually saw it. So she was out in South Carolina and went out and started. She saw all the aircraft flying around it and everything.
You ever see any weird shit like aliens or anything?
I haven't, yeah, but I do believe in aliens, of course.
You do?
Yeah, we've thought about putting on a Sasquatch outfit and just having someone run around the back of one of our tornado videos and don't
Yeah, yeah.
say anything.
Yeah. You would have fit along well with my old partners, you know? Good thing, you know? But anyways, I mean, this has been great, Reed. This has been a really, really fucking great talk. I love it.
Yeah, this has been awesome.
This
I'll
is
have to
like,
keep-
I mean, Scott, after hearing all this, be honest, would you ever go with Reed and chase a tornado?
Yeah, of course. I think he knows what he's doing, so I would feel safe being in the Dominator. Yeah.
Well, you haven't got hit yet, so how many total chases?
Oh, I've been hit by tornadoes.
No, but like, you know, I mean, you're still here, so.
Oh yeah, I'm still.
You're
Bob's
still
saying it's a
thriving.
numbers game at this point.
It's a numbers game. I mean, I don't know. You maybe do. I'm getting nervous here for Christ's sake, but God rest your soul here. But I'll be there for the next one. So you're gonna let me know.
Yeah.
And what
yeah.
do I do? I got to be ready to go on a plane tonight, tomorrow morning.
Yeah, if we target Wednesday, but if another one comes, we just got to get in the night before. We'll have a little bit of a meeting, a little weather briefing,
Yeah.
and then we'll hit the road the next morning, and we'll chase tornadoes like there's
Okay.
no tomorrow.
Can
The
you
Team
ma-
Dominator and the boys.
Can you imagine me at that meeting? Yes, of course, Reed. I understand the navigator here is ready to go. We are ready to go. Absolutely. You know. All right. Well, this is great. I had a great time with you, Reed. Thank you for coming to L.A., even though I fucking hate this place. But sometimes we shoot some episodes here. So I wish you the best of luck, and I look forward to chasing our little storm together and hopefully making some good content and staying alive.
Yeah, thank you so much for
All
having
right.
me. It's
I
an
love it.
absolute honor.
Pleasure.
Never stop chasing.
Never stop chasing is Reed's words. That was great, Reed.